Rhombus, 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 Rhombus.
Oh, super wacky.
I look like a fucking gnome.
You are a fucking gnome. Alright, welcome everyone. My name's Dubscout3, and welcome to my I guess you're probably watching this either from YouTube or you stumbled upon my blog for the love of bass.blogspot.com. And today is a very special day. I'll use that as a segue to introduce my guest here. Would you like to tell everyone, the world, who you are?
Yeah, my name is Rhombus, the moniker Rhombus. And I make 140 BPM music, deep minimal style, influenced a lot by the UK. That's where I'm coming from. A lot of deep, murky tunes and all that jazz.
Why not start with Plethora? Could you talk to us a little bit about the inspiration for that tune?
Sure. A lot of it came from, influences like Just Be and Shackleton, and a lot more of the UK side as well. The kind of a tribal influence, actually. A very sexy, kind of tribal, minimal, deep, throbbing bass sound is what I was going for, and I got it. And it started as a 70s tune, like a lot more two-steppy, a lot more atmospheric, and then it dropped into something really heavy, which is a lot more like, pulsing bass width. I've been using a lot of pulse width modulation in my lower registries, and a lot of delay stacks, and that's what that tune is defined by.
How about Kyo Tokyo? Kind of what was the inspiration for that? I mean, for me, I heard a lot of different sounds in it. The name in and of itself, I was imagining some kind of like Godzilla, esque. I don't know, just that was the vision that I had, and some of the sounds in there were even kind of Jurassic in certain ways. Mm-hmm. And I guess where do you even hear these sounds? Where do you even capture these sounds? Like, are they coming out of this little brain of yours, or big brain rather? I mean, as just someone who approaches you on the street, you're kind of unassuming, and I just would not expect that those kind of like darker sounds are kind of like floating around up there. So can you talk a little bit about that tune?
Sure, yeah. Kyo Tokyo was kind of a traveling tune for me. Like, Kyo Tokyo was a journey to Japan. I'm a big fan of dissonance and disconnection, and just feeling like trolled out, and having these really intense deep, murky, deep meditation tunes, that kind of embellish what true, bass music is all about. It's a bass culture, so all those lower frequencies really move sort of your bass chakra, and throughout up to here, I would say your heart chakra and below, the primal piece within you makes you move. And more ways than one, it's more of a movement on the mind as well. That's how I would like it too. But all that transcendental hippie bullshit aside, I think, it's a great thing to dance to, for sure, especially on the dance floor. Just feel it, in your chest,
exactly,
in your gut,
exactly, and actually that reminds me, you have a newer tune out right now called Bass Weight. I just want to get right to that track, and you were kind of speaking of some of these other heavyweights, Truth, Cryptic Minds, just a lot of people who bring that deeper sound. And when I heard Bass Weight, it really, I could have easily heard it in a set, and it would have seamlessly blended into that set as far as kind of like the level of skill and mastery that came with that tune. And it was super deep, super hard hitting, and as it was probably one of your more recent tunes, could you get into that a little bit? Like, where was that coming from?
Sure. Yeah, Bass Weight is a funny tune. It's a clip right now on SoundCloud. I'm about to master it and hopefully send it out to a few record labels. So Bass Weight is kind of like an encapsulation of sort of my, deeper, dancier sort of tunes, and it's just very heavy on the low end. So it pulses, and it's got its thing. I was inspired just to make kind of a stomper, and that's more of my stomper's tune. Yeah.
Gorilla Milk. That tune is quite amazing. The name is awesome. Speak to that a little bit.
Okay, yeah, Gorilla Milk was It was a tune very inspired by, I would say, Stanley Kubrick and 2001 Space Odyssey, all that sort of pseudo-acid-esque space traveling exploration sort of thing. At the time I was living in East Oakland, and that's when I synthesized this thing. There's actually a tag team collaboration between me and this guy who owned a Mini Moog in the 70s. So analog, this straight up analog gear, and we sampled that, we droned out, we sampled that, came out with a beat, My Boy Cyclopean Architect. Anyway, yeah, so we used a lot of like analog gear and just droned out for days, and then just came up with a structure and became Gorilla Milk, which is, yeah, like on the sci-fi cusp. Yeah, so I'm thinking going back to the roots of my down-tempo side, so a little bit more of a down-tempo, chill out, you know, spaced out dub sound. I did a collaboration with Drains recently. Drains is a tag team duo from the LA area, and we came out with a tune that sounds pretty good. It's called Mingus, so keep your eye out for that. Hopefully make it out to a compilation soon. But yeah, it's a free tune, and yeah, it's on that cusp of just like super deep, minimal, like raw dubstep.
And that's some of my favorite stuff. Sounds that you're never gonna hear on commercial radio, unfortunately.
Amen.
Amen. Actually, I looked up the word rhombus and to get an understanding of what that really even meant. And as far as I know, it's a shape, but in some circles, or rather squares. It's a square that has kind of like that has gone rogue. That's kind of fallen to the side. But why don't you speak to where that name came from?
I think that goes back to high school when I was taking math classes, and I was part of like the nerd crew. So like, a rhombus is basically a parallelogram that's shifted. It's like a rogue square, or like, you know, something that has a different skew to it, you know. So that's what I'm trying to capture in my music, which is like, you know, severely engineered in a certain way that is particularly strange. And I think that's what my name is all about.
Word. Actually, that leads me to another question. I have people out there who basically, essentially say that dubstep is a tune that, or is a subgenre of music that will essentially, you know, fade away like, you know, Moonbaton has, or, you know, other genres.
Yeah.
But they fail to realize that it has its footholds. It's been around for at least 10 years, if not earlier, you know, when people were kind of like messing with those sounds. And it very much, like hip hop, has its own culture around it, and it's a lifestyle, just like, you know, hip hop may be a lifestyle, or even folks who are into like death metal, it has a lifestyle, it has a, you know, it can stand on its own 2 feet. And I mean, like, I feel like I'm constantly in defense of that for folks who have really zero exposure, or very little exposure to the sound. So, I mean, do you want to speak to kind of that element? I mean, you can take that in any direction that you want.
Sure. I feel that you know, like it's in its heyday, like for example, pure dub influence, sound system culture. You know, King Tubby, fucking Horace Andy, anything that was sampled and resampled and then played on giant systems for party vibes. You know, with that deep bass wave. You know, like it's impossible to reach with other genres. This is definitely the best time to live for those sub-frequencies. So you actually have to go out into the scene to be immersed in this blanket of sub-frequencies. And it's just a sound system culture. So you'll hear it being played out on vinyl, you'll be hearing it played out on, you know, your DAW, fucking Ableton, DJing live, you know, and cut in so many different ways, and there's just so many intricacies in the way you can manipulate that sound. It's such an experimental thing that it's going to definitely remain in its foothold.
This was awesome. Rhombus, Remy, have at least 3 different names as far as I'm concerned.
You can call me Eddie if you want.
I'm just super stoked that you came through. Again, you came all the way from LA to be with me today to kind of go over what your sound is, what you're about. And, you know.
Thank you for having me. Definitely. Thank you.
Where can we find you?
Oh, check me out on SoundCloud.com /Clouds of Rhombus.
And I'm definitely going to put links in the bottom bar to Rhombus's SoundCloud page. And so check that out. Please, you know, show the love. Come back to fortheloveofbass.blogspot.com. Check me out. Bye.
You need a fluffer. I need like a blowjob.